Last night was WWE Payback. The House of Horrors match is in the books, hopefully forever. Bray Wyatt, Randy Orton fought in a house in Missouri, then drove to an arena in San Jose. It was crazy. It went back in time. It was dark when they fought, then it was light when they got to the building. We can talk about that match here today, as well as Braun Strowman and Roman Reigns, which Braun Strowman won clean in the middle. There were a lot of clean finishes last night. Braun Strowman beat Roman Reigns clean. Seth Rollins beat Samoa Joe clean. Alexa Bliss beat Bayley clean. That's right. Not only did Bayley lose in her hometown, but normally when you beat somebody in their hometown, this is particularly in WWE because no other promotion in the world would beat somebody in their hometown. Normally when you beat somebody in the hometown, the idea is, well, we got to get heat on their opponent. We got to get their opponent hated coming out of this show. They didn't even do a heel finish. Alexa Bliss kicked out of a cradle. Bayley bonked her head on the post, and then Alexa DDT'd her and won. That was the finish. So, I don't know how they got any heat on Alexa, and they beat Bayley in their hometown. And after they beat Bayley in her hometown, the crowd was kind of dead from that point forward. Of course, it didn't help that they were followed by the Bray Wyatt-Randy Orton match. Hardys beat Cesaro and Sheamus, then Cesaro and Sheamus did their heel turn. Aries beat Neville via disqualification. That was a terrible finish. Jericho beat Kevin Owens, which was a good match. Jericho on his way to SmackDown for one day before he goes on tour. We can talk about all of this and a lot more on the show today. Plus your phone calls, emails, text messages, and more. Observer Live, Sports Byline USA, Radio Network. Back here in the show, Brian Alvarez here, Wrestling Observer Live. Mike Sempervive, also of WrestlingObserver.com. WWE Payback, we'll talk about Raw. A lot of other news as well. If you want to give us a call today, toll free, 844-411-5411. That is toll free, 844-411-5411. Text messages, 425-780-7566. All of these numbers are up on the front page of WrestlingObserver.com. I want to mention before we get going here today that I did hear from Jim in Virginia. He's getting back on his feet.
Hey.
Hopefully he'll be back in the saddle calling this show again soon. Our best wishes to Jim. He's had some health issues, but is getting stronger, so big thumbs up to Jim in Virginia. Last night was the WWE Payback show. Braun Strowman, Roman Reigns, the main event, the House of Horrors match. Randy Orton did the El Jobski after a run-in by everybody's main man, Jinder Mahal, setting up that match at the next pay-per-view. We had all sorts of clean finishes. Bayley, of course, lost in her hometown. Pretty much everything you would expect from a WWE pay-per-view. Sheamus nearly killing somebody, as usual. Lots of great stuff. I hear I got some heat online for all the mean things that I said about Sheamus.
Oh, yeah?
How dare I say such terrible things about this guy who kicked a stationary target in the face and knocked his tooth out? What about when Nakamura hurt Austin Aries, they said? What about when AJ knocked out the Miz's tooth? Well, in both of those situations, let me just say this very quickly, since I think a lot of people listen but hear what they want to hear, as opposed to what I actually said. You see, accidents happen in wrestling. Okay? They happen. Accidents happen every day in wrestling.
It ain't ballet.
Now, there's a difference between, in the Nakamura-Austin Aries match, for example, they had a spot where Austin Aries was going to do a 360 into an elbow, and at the same time, Nakamura was going to be moving forward, throwing a kick. And you know what? An accident happened. In fact, as angry as I was at Jinder Mahal for giving Finn Balor a concussion, the reality is they were both moving forward at the same time as well. Accidents do happen. Mm-hmm. Also, in the case of AJ and Nakamura, and even Jinder Mahal, none of them have a track record of hurting their opponents. Guess who does? Sheamus.
Who does? Yeah.
Sheamus has a track record. And furthermore, Jeff Hardy was not moving a muscle. He was on all fours. He looked up. He gave the guy his face. And Sheamus still kicked him and knocked his tooth out. Because he sucks. And I stand by that. If you'd like to comment, you're welcome to. We have a phone and we have the ability to text message and more. I would love to read your tweets and your emails and your texts about this situation, and really anything else you'd like to say about Payback. Mike, what did you think about this show?
I thought there was a House of Horrors match on it. It was, there was actually some good stuff on the show. I am not as anti the ending of Neville and Aries as you were, and as many people are. Was it a dumb idea? Yeah, how they went about it. But as far as the feud continuing, which was the bottom line on that one, I liked it, and I thought the match was good. I thought Owens and Jericho was a surprise, and I thought that was pretty good. You know, it started off okay that way. But once it hit the House of Horrors match, I mean, honest to God, I was too busy playing around online, cracking jokes, having choose-your-own-adventure moments when they were done with the house portion of that match, and we had the long delay, and now we were going to get Samoa Joe and Seth Rollins, and I was completely out of that one. That match, it was a blur. I still have not gone back and rewatched it. I can't really talk about it because I wouldn't be doing it any justice. It wouldn't be fair to it. I didn't pay attention to it, and I don't know if people there at the arena were paying attention to it, or if they weren't all just still burnt out from what they had seen, sitting there chanting boring at that disaster of a House of Horrors match that it was live. And I'm not sure what else you can say. Wrestling-wise, and as far as like kind of being a placeholder of a show to move things forward, it was fine. It's just this thing is going to be always known for the House of Horrors match, and it was an idea, much like the ridiculous overlay of sight gags in the ring at WrestleMania was an idea. It just wasn't a very good one. And this isn't the first time they've had this dumb idea where they ice the home crowd and don't exactly sell the person at home on the adventure that they're watching. And it was a big miss, I thought, to me.
Well, whatever your thoughts are, everybody, you can give us a call here today. Got a lot of text messages here already. Oh, let's jump into them. This person says, it's been a while since WWE gave us some great wrestle crap on purpose. So I have loved the entire Orton-Wyatt feud for the visuals. My only problem with the House of Horrors was that the production quality was too good. They should have done found footage style filming or something like that. Listen, everyone has the right to their opinion. You're totally wrong. Why would you have found footage of a build match? Like, the match was advertised as being House of Horrors. Why would there be found footage? There should have been a cameraman in there. In fact, my problem was that the production... Here's the thing. I'm so sick of this shaking camera, okay? They do this on Raw all the time. Like, whenever there's an attack, I guess they're afraid that if they don't move the camera, you're going to see people missing punches or missing kicks or whatever. And so they violently shake the camera, and they do like 9 million camera cuts. Now, some people have been complaining about this for years. I haven't. Like... It's not my favorite thing in the world, but I sort of understand that it adds a little bit of a level of excitement to it. But the problem with the House of Horrors match was the camera shook the whole time. For like 5 straight minutes, the camera was shaking. I nearly had a heart attack. I nearly vomited all, and my cat did vomit all over the hardwood, by the way. During this match, no coincidence, the shaking camera's got to go. It just drives me out of my mind. Especially on a pre-tape. Like, on a pre-tape, if there's air between a guy's head and a fist, or a bad angle, just tape it again. It's not like it's a live attack in the middle of the ring. That infuriated me. But no, I don't agree with found footage for a match that was billed in advance for a month.
No, that's the other thing with that match is they make this thing up out of thin air. They don't know where they're going with it or what they're going to do with it. And I think... You know, if they had more time and they had a plan and they had some coherent way to do it, none of it made any sense. We're going to start the match here with this pre-tape, this obvious pre-tape, because it's 6:30 in the afternoon and the sun's still out in San Jose. But okay, we'll hand wave that one out of the way. Randy Orton just shows up. We don't know how he got there. We don't know what the rules are. It's like, where is Daniel Bryan, who I guess obviously his wife's having a baby, but where is Shane McMahon? Because if we were able to strip Naomi of the women's title for possibly being hurt within 30 days, even though she wasn't, how can we have a match with this, where we just randomly have rules that are at play? None of it makes any sense. The Refrigerator, I believe, is the number one contender to Chris Jericho's U.S. title right now. It's just everything about it. None of it made any sense. There was no cohesion to any of it. And then when you ask questions, you get made fun of by WWE going, shut up, enjoy the story. It's like, no, I can't really enjoy this story. I have no idea what's going on. And it's really hard to juxtapose this with everything else on your show.
This person says, I loved your Sheamus rant. I agree with you. But that said, I have to ask, what are your parameters? You talk about guys killing each other, but you also decry guys like Ambrose and Miz for working a bit soft. I don't mean to accuse, but would like to hear you define your stance more, please. Very nice the way he asked that question, even though he's purposely, obviously trying to stir trouble here. We're going to head to a break. I'm going to let him think about this for a second, and then when we come back from the break, I will explain in great detail why this is not a black and white issue. We'll go to the phones as well. If you want to give us a call here today, 844-411-5411. Text messages 425-780-7566. Looking for your thoughts on the WWE Payback pay-per-view, which was not Backlash. That's next. Nor is it Great Balls of Fire, which is coming up later on this summer. Back in a moment, Observer Live, Sports Byline USA, Radio Network. Back here on the show, Brian Alvarez here, Wrestling Observer Live. Mike Sempervive, also of WrestlingObserver.com. So that text I read before the break, now I got more from this fella. This friendly fella, I might add. He is asking in a very nice way. He says, loved your Sheamus rant. Agree with you. That said, I have to ask, what are your parameters? You talk about guys killing each other, but you also decry guys like Ambrose and Miz for working a bit soft. I don't mean to accuse, but would like to hear you define your stance more, please. And he adds, not trying to stir trouble, just want more info. Okay. So, I don't know if you watched the pay-per-view last night, but there were 7 matches on the main card, and Chris Jericho and Kevin Owens, for example, had a very good match. I didn't see either guy knock out a tooth or give the other guy a concussion. Austin Aries and Neville had an exceptional match. I don't remember either of them knocking the other guy's tooth out or causing the other to suffer a concussion. Alexa Bliss and Bayley, you know what? They had a pretty good match. It wasn't a great match, but it was a good match. I don't recall either of them knocking out a tooth or giving the other one a concussion. Seth Rollins, Samoa Joe, a very good match. As well as Braun Strowman and Roman Reigns, who had a very good match, and there was a lot of perceived violence in that match. But you know what? I don't remember either guy knocking the other guy's tooth out or giving the other guy a concussion. In fact, if you go throughout history, you could probably watch, 98% of the matches that have ever taken place in history, and one guy didn't knock out the other guy's tooth or give the other guy a concussion. And I would say that probably a lot of those matches looked pretty good in the ring. Because you see, it isn't you either go really slow and look sloppy and don't touch each other and look like you're wrestling underwater or kill each other. It's not an either or. This business is supposed to be about how good a match can I have, how believable a match can I have without hurting my opponent. And you know what? Throughout history, most people have been able to do it. Some people haven't. Sheamus is one of them. So that's the big difference right there. I don't even know why I had to explain that. It's patently obvious. Like, go back to Starrcade 84. I just reviewed it a couple of days ago. Look at the match with Ricky Steamboat and Tully Blanchard. That was better than any WWE pay-per-view match that I've seen in a long time. Neither guy hurt the other guy. Neither guy caused the other guy to suffer a concussion. Aside from, some forearms to the back, neither guy touched the other guy the entire match. But you know what? It was a great match. It looked good. The guys didn't wrestle like they were underwater. Why does this have to be explained? Can we just have a good match and not hurt each other?
Apparently not. Or apparently people want to banter about guys that they may like or things that you may say.
You ever seen a Shawn Michaels match? Why don't you start rattling off names, Mike? Rattle off names of great workers in history who've had great matches. The matches look good, but they didn't hurt their opponent. You could go for hours. Bret Hart.
Shawn Michaels.
Ric Flair.
Ricky Steamboat.
Tully Blanchard.
Arn Anderson. Yeah,
I saw Naito and Juice Robinson have a main event at the New Japan show on Friday. Neither guy hurt the other guy, and they sure didn't look like Miz and Ambrose when they did it. They looked awesome.
Yeah, this seems to happen with Sheamus a lot, and the bottom line is you don't have to be as emotional as you about it. Doesn't have to be.
Sure you do.
Well, you could if you wanted to, but you could just sit here and list off the names. Daniel Bryan, I think Christian was one of them. Somebody pointed out Jeff Hardy, and both Jeff and Matt last night. It's Sheamus. Yeah, he works snug, and he has occasionally potatoed the hell out of guys. In fact, on more than one occasion, been the potatoer and then had to be the potatoee, which is not good either. You know, you can say what you want about receipts, but look, a well-placed receipt can knock the other guy out. It can. So, you know, paying back things too, or just saying, well, you know, he's able to take it in return isn't the best thing in the world. I just sit back and kind of shake my head at it. I'm not going to get too upset about it. I'll let the workers talk about it. And there's been more than one worker or a trained professional, which you are, by the way, in case anybody wants to forget about that, who has pointed out the fact that...
I never knocked someone's tooth out.
Well, that's the whole thing. Is it seems to happen with Sheamus more than it happens a lot of times with other people, and a lot of guys will just simply say that and leave it right there, and I think I will too.
Let's think about this for a second. Let's imagine that I got back in the ring, okay? Let's imagine that I got back in the ring and somebody booked me for a match with Sheamus. For all of you that are out there defending Sheamus from mean old Brian, said all these terrible things about him as a worker, let's imagine that Sheamus and I got booked for a match, okay? Sheamus has been a WWE professional. He's been in the business for 15 years, okay? I've had one match in 7 years. So I come out from behind the microphone here. I get in the ring with Sheamus. We're backstage. I say, listen, we're going to do this spot. It's a tag match. And what I want you to do is I want you to start crawling to the corner, and I'm gonna cut you off so you can't tag, and then I'm gonna kick you in the face, and then I'm gonna work you over again. Okay? Now, you're not even gonna be crawling. You're just gonna be there on your hands and knees, unmoving, and I'm gonna kick you in the face. You know, I'll hit you in the shoulder or the chest or whatever. I won't kick your face hard, obviously, and we'll just do the spot. So imagine we did that match, and Bryan Alvarez stood in the corner, and Sheamus stood in front of me, unmoving. And I just hauled off and kicked him in the face and knocked his tooth out. What do you think is going to happen in the locker room? What do you think Sheamus would say about me as a worker? Do you think he's going to go, oh, you know, I wasn't moving. I gave you my face. It just kicked it. Things happen in this business. The dude would be furious. He would be furious. This person here says, I respect your opinion, but I think you overreacted. I think it was an accident. Well, obviously it was an accident. Aside from Daniel Bryan, I don't recall Sheamus having a track record of hurting guys. I know you're not the biggest fan of his, so I think it's easier for you to hate on him, just my opinion. Well, he did end the career of Daniel Bryan. There was an incident with Christian in Money in the Bank where he punched him right in the face and knocked a tooth out. There's another one. And I'm sure there are a number of others as well. The guy has a reputation for working too stiff. Imagine, Mike, just name a random job you've had in your life.
Bartender.
Bartender, okay? So imagine that you regularly as a bartender, when pouring drinks, would pour too much and the drink would spill out and get all over the customer's clothing. Like, what would happen to you?
Probably at some point of doing that enough, probably get beat up.
What if you, like, every time you were, like, getting a bottle off the shelf, like, you dropped them on a semi-regular basis and just broke bottles?
Probably going to get fired at some point for wasting product and being just generally inept at what I'm doing.
Like, would they not tell you that you're bad at your job?
At some point, I would think so. In no uncertain terms, I'm sure they would.
Like, Sheamus's job is to have a wrestling match, make it look real, but not hurt his opponent, right? Why am I such a bad guy for saying you're no good at your job if you keep hurting people?
I don't know.
Am I wrong here? If I am, I apologize. I apologize if I'm wrong.
Business is a work, right?
I thought so.
You're not supposed to actually lay it in and then expect that, you know, no matter what you do, it's okay as long as you're willing to take a receipt or two and a hard shot yourself that everything is all good, right?
This person says, based on the Miz TV segment, do you think we get Balor versus Brock before the year is over? Well, Brock needs opponents, and I'm not sure that he can wrestle Braun Strowman all year long before getting to Roman Reigns. He's going to need some other challengers. I think it'd be a good match. And I hope we see it. Let's go to the phones. You're on the air. What's up?
Hello, Brian. It's me, Marco from Colombia.
Yes, Marco.
Yeah, I watched the show yesterday, and I thought it was just an okay show, nothing great. And that has been the problem with WWE for many, many years, that they don't make anything great. It's just everything's okay.
Yeah, there's a lot of that. And it's on the network now, and I guess their feeling is, well, you're not paying $60, so we'll give you your $9 worth over the course of a month.
Yeah, that's true. And also about Bray Wyatt, his character is just so flat nowadays that I don't care anymore. It's like Dean Ambrose, the same thing. Like, for real, I have no hope on them for the near future in their career. What do you think about that?
Well, I want to thank you very much for calling all the way from Colombia. I think the problem I've mentioned with Bray Wyatt is he's a great talker. And so the writers are enamored with writing this flowery, wacky dialogue that he recites. He recites it well, but the content of the dialogue causes me to zone out every time. And I don't think I'm the only one.
No. And the other thing is, Bray Wyatt never wins the big match. And when he does win the big match, it's never usually cleanly. So that doesn't help matters either at all when it comes to him. But yeah, great character in a different era. I really like it a lot. I really like him a lot, and I have more faith in it than some people. But the reality of the situation is it's been a bastardized kind of joke of a deal that has people basically either groaning or sitting on their hands most of the time.
This person here says, didn't Sheamus also retire Christian? Well, I know people don't think that this is the case, but it is the case. I am a fair man. And so, no, I did not list that one because I'm not sure. I know that everybody thinks that Sheamus retired Christian, but I don't know if he was the one that gave him that concussion. It was a four-way, and it may have been Del Rio. Christian was facing two opponents, and there was a lot of things happening in that match. It may have been Sheamus, but it may not have been Sheamus. So as a fair man, I'm not going to add Christian.
That's okay. Daniel
retirement.
Bryan really makes up for everything there, doesn't it?
Well, he is no longer wrestling, and it was because of Sheamus kicking him also in the head. This person here, Laura, she has a couple of questions. She wants to know that if she buys the Bray Wyatt house, which is on sale, by the way, I think it's $35,000. It's in Missouri if you want to buy it. She says, can she turn it into the F4W house? Yes, and I will send memorabilia as well. And she also wants to know about Billy Corgan, and so we'll talk about that after the break. Observer Live, Sports Byline USA, Radio Network. Back here on the show, PW Insider reporting today, and we can confirm this, by the way, Smashing Pumpkins frontman and former TNA Wrestling president Billy Corgan has agreed in principle to purchase the National Wrestling Alliance. PWInsider.com is confirmed with multiple sources. Deal in place would see Corgan purchase the name, rights, trademarks to the NWA, as well as the rights and possession of the NWA Championship belt. Now, in asking around, that's all anybody knows right now. He's doing a deal to grab the trademarks and everything like this. Where this all goes from here, who knows? But I guess Billy is now the man behind the National Wrestling Alliance. Can you imagine?
Well, you know what?
Clearly he's got a plan.
He's the owner of the Chicago amphitheater footage, right?
I don't know.
I think he is. If that's the case, you know, there are a few guys out there with enough money to buy, if they wanted to, the existing libraries that are out there of St. Louis, of, you know, Paul Bosch's stuff from Houston, which may or may not be a part of this deal with Bruce Tharp, which for the NWA rights and the name and all that sort of stuff. So it'll be interesting. I mean, you know, it's a stretch to think that anybody would want to be too involved in it, but you know, with Chicago and Houston, and if you can get a couple of other of the libraries that are out there, you know, I don't know how much rights you can get to Memphis and Continental and stuff like that, but if anybody's got the lawyers and anybody's got the money to do so, if they so chose, I would assume Billy Corgan could. So who knows? We'll have to see what happens going forward here and what this actually means for anything, but you know, longtime wrestling fan with money invests in wrestling again, so there you go.
This person says, are they seriously considering Balor versus Brock? Yeah. Why not? Here's the thing. Yes. Brock gave Randy Orton a concussion at SummerSlam. But, and this is not a defense of the concussion, but that was their idea for the finish. The idea of the finish was Brock is going to take the guy down and bust him open with elbows. That was their idea. Now, I mean, I know people are going to go, oh, well, Brian's defending Brock, but he's not defending Sheamus. Brock's job was to take his elbow and split the guy open. Unfortunately, in doing so, he gave the guy a concussion. Yeah, it's kind of Brock's fault, but that was the spot. The fault of that spot was whoever came up with that stupid idea.
Oh.
Now, if you take that out of the equation, Brock does not have a reputation for hurting guys. Brock's matches are you're supposed to think that somebody could die at any time, but he doesn't go in there and actually kill his opponent. So, I'm pretty sure that Finn Balor could survive a match with Brock Lesnar because it's not real, and Brock's job is to take care of his opponent, and he normally does.
Yeah, I think Brock, when it's come to him, quote-unquote, killing guys, it's been cases like Hardcore Holly, who, in his case, had it coming, or it's a case like you said, with Randy Orton, where that was the deal. It's like Mick Foley talking about in his book about Harley Race. You know, you punch down over the eye back in the day. It's a good spot where you could split the eye open, get a nice big cut going, get blood going out of there. The visual was great, and it might swell up a little bit, if you do it right. And he hit him, and nothing happened. And he hit him about 10 more times, and nothing happened. And his face blew up like a balloon. And it's not that he was a horrible person. That's just what it was supposed to be. And it ended up failing. In the case of Sheamus, when you have guys on all fours giving you your face, and your job is to boot him in the chest or to pull back on your kick or whatever it was supposed to be, and you end up knocking a tooth out, and it's not the first time that you've waylaid somebody with an errant fist or a kick, then your reputation is going to grow on its own.
Can you imagine, by the way, that their idea at SummerSlam was a ref stoppage finish where Brock beat up Randy Orton so bad that the ref called it off and Randy Orton was taken away like on a stretcher? That was their idea. And because it's 2017, this is the most mind-blowing thing of all. It's too barbaric to take a small sliver of a razor blade and slice your forehead open to get juice. So instead of doing that, we'll have a 280-pounder smash you in your head with his sharp elbows to bust you open hard way. Tell someone in the real world this.
Well, that's what happens when you get so excited and you build up and everything builds up to a crescendo, back when you're planning this stuff, and then you unleash it on the world, and common sense and the reins don't get pulled back a little bit for everybody to kind of settle down and think, is this a good idea? It's in the moment, and I'm not going to really kill them for all of that. I mean, it was a horrible idea. It was an idea placed in a different time. But I still sort of kind of get what they thought they were trying to do. It's such an antiquated idea, and in hindsight, it was just so ridiculously, such a horrible idea that, it's almost unbelievable. But then again, you do what you did at WrestleMania, and then you go follow that up for Bray Wyatt and Randy Orton with this House of Horrors match. They don't like learning from mistakes.
This person here says, why are you surprised that Sheamus, an Irishman, throws potatoes? Get it? Potatoes?
Come on, man.
I've never seen Finn Balor throwing any potatoes.
Exactly.
He's an Irishman. This person says, what's a bigger
Becky
nightmare?
Lynch doesn't.
What's a bigger nightmare for you? You versus Nakamura at the Tokyo Dome, or you versus Sheamus? Oh, for sure, Sheamus.
Oh, yeah.
That trumps the Nakamura nightmare. Having to work with Sheamus. To the phones, you're on the air. What's up?
Hey, Brian, Steve from Chicago.
Yes, Steve.
My question's regarding the Sheamus subject. Is there any chance that Sheamus gets any sort of punishment for this botch here? Because looking back, it almost seems like it's swung the other way, where wrestlers get punished for getting injured, while the guy causing the injury usually either, if he does get punished, you almost never see his push seemingly affected by this.
Yeah, it is very weird. I want to thank you very much for the call. The guys that potato other guys, for some reason, They, the Jinder thing was planned before he hurt Finn Balor. So it's not like he hurt Finn Balor and they gave him a push as a result. But yes, in this company, if you get a concussion, that will sometimes be the end of your big-time push. It happened to Dolph Ziggler.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, if you're kicking guys in the face, it doesn't seem to matter. I guess they just figure accidents happen.
Not true, because I bet you I could kick guys in the face to get signed there, and I bet you it would be looked at differently than Sheamus, who,
that
seems
is
to have
true.
the
There is
right
a
friends in the right
hierarchy.
places.
There is a hierarchy. If you're a low-level guy and you kick somebody in the face, that may be the end of you. But if you're a high-level guy and you kick somebody in the face, Brian Alvarez is a very, very mean guy for not respecting you as a worker.
Oh, we got to be a great white shark. If you're just like Titus O'Neil pulling on Vince McMahon, you'll get suspended for 60 days.
So that people go, I can't believe you said you don't respect Sheamus as a worker. You think Sheamus respects me as a radio host?
Probably not.
Probably not. So we're in the same boat, so who cares?
Yeah.
Let's go to the phones. You're on the air.
Oh, it's still me. Sorry.
Oh, what happened? Well, thanks very much for the call. I appreciate it. I hit the button and it's supposed to go to the next guy and it stayed on him. I like that he hung around the whole time. This person says, production team did a good job of making the House of Horrors look spooky. That's the only positive feedback I have from that match.
Spooky.
Listen, the match wasn't very, it was stupid, but, come on. Have you watched WWE? It wasn't even the top 10 of stupid things they've done. That's not even really a defense.
If you think about it visually, it was far more ridiculous under the circumstances for Ken Shamrock and Owen Hart, or who was it? Owen Hart and Dan Severn in the what the hell do they call it? The basement match or whatever it was, the dungeon match. Actually, visually, if I recall, it didn't. Of course, it wasn't set up to look like it was a fun house or a broken down old home or something like that. But the visual of that was just as ridiculous as anything they've ever done, and that actually will have probably far more warm and fuzzy memories than this will for people.
This person here wants to know if Samoa Joe is in line for Geek of the Week after pinning himself. No, he's not. Come on. How's anyone going to beat Sheamus for Geek of the Week? Seriously, how?
I don't know. Maybe we find out what made that tractor run last night, and we
They ain't gonna do it, dude. Ain't gonna do it. How is anyone gonna beat Sheamus? That's my challenge for Geek of the Week. It's impossible.
Vince.
People say, or this person says, a lot of people seem upset that Alexa Bliss won the title. Don't believe she is capable. I'm a big fan. Believe she is capable of Trish Stratus' popularity. What are your thoughts on Alexa? I love Alexa. I think she's great. She's not like a great worker or anything like that, but I think everything except for her wrestling is awesome. And her wrestling is good. It's not bad, it's not great, it's good. And she's improving. I'm a big fan of Alexa Bliss. I do think that the idea that they beat Bayley in her hometown, apparently this is like very controversial today that people care about this, but all I'm going to say is Bayley, since coming up to the main roster, has not gotten the reactions she got when she was a superstar in NXT. Like when she would do those takeovers and she just got like this unbelievable reaction. She has not gotten that since coming to WWE. Last night in her hometown, she got it. And so to me, she should have won that match. At least give her something. And then Alexa Bliss could beat her tonight. It's not like we haven't had a title change on Raw 50,000 times for that women's title. So that's what I would have done if you want to get the title on Alexa. You have her win in her hometown. Everybody goes home happy. They're not angry that they came to see their favorite hometown hero and you beat her. Clean, by the way. They got their big happy win. They go home. They don't complain about the show because they got a win by Bayley even though they saw House of Horrors. And then Alexa can beat her the next night. It's not the end of the world.
Alexa Bliss has got a long way to go if she can ever excel in the ring or get to a point of being good because, she's every bit of average right now. But all of the intangibles, how she carries herself, the interviews, the whole 9 yards, all of that stuff, the presence in the ring is something else. And yeah, I don't know if she's got... Trish Stratus was very special. I don't think you can copy her, but what you can do is add Alexa Bliss to Charlotte, to Becky Lynch, to Sasha Banks, to the core that they already have there, and you really do have something for the future.
This person says, how about that Cena cameo driving the tractor last night?
They actually should have probably, in my eyes, in hindsight, because of how ridiculous it was, I would have taken an absolutely ridiculous, like, Hillbilly Jim is driving by on the tractor or something like that.
Well, here's the problem. Then it's not spooky. The tractor had to be driving by itself.
Was it spooky? Was any of it spooky to begin with?
Well, the dolls hanging from the ceiling, I'm sure freaked out a lot of people. This person says, I can't knock the House of Horrors completely. For a company who has a template on everything, this was a different idea executed horribly. And he notes this was the first pay-per-view I started watching and was like, I can watch it later.
But you know what? It wasn't a different idea, because we've seen Lucha Underground and we've seen Jeremy Borash and Matt Hardy and TNA do this stuff with the Hardys too. Like, I appreciate the chutzpah and trying to do something different, but you know what? Not having any idea of what you're doing, which they didn't for this House of Horrors match.
Sure they did.
To all be splattered together.
They got
at
a
the
house.
Last minute. Well, yeah, they rented a house, and okay, guys, go fight. And oh, by the way, you're going to have to jump in a vehicle that we won't explain, and then you'll have to come back to the arena to finish the match.
Okay,
purely just for Jinder and the Bollywood Boys to interfere, which made no sense.
That part was stupid. However, they promised a House of Horrors match. Everybody wanted to know what it was, including Randy Orton. And at the end of the day, it was exactly what they said it would be. It was a house with horrors in it.
Well, what were the horrors exactly?
There was scary stuff.
Like what?
Mike.
Again, the baby dolls, like that's what you got?
Yeah, have you ever seen a horror movie? Back in a moment. Observer Live, Sports Byline USA, Radio Network. This person here says, what is Bray's gimmick? I thought he was just a backwoods cult leader, but he also has mystical powers, owns a lot of property, and is a professional wrestler. Well, it's very simple.
That is IRS,
It's very simple. So if he were a big city cult leader, he'd be making millions.
Yeah, Jim Jones style.
But he's a backwoods cult leader. As far as we know, he's only ever had 3 followers.
David Koresh style.
So they've chipped in very, very little money to his cult coffers. His real estate, I mean, he owns property, but it's like one home is up for $36,000. I mean, his shack was probably a lot less than that, and it got burned down.
Well, and he got some insurance money from that too, which may explain, the drive itself tractor he got.
I mean, that's clearly why he's a pro wrestler. He doesn't make enough in his cult.
Well,
and he does have mystical powers. I don't get that part.
I know it's supposed to be a line you're supposed to cut off, but it's still in the back of my mind that, like a lot of people who go out there and they fall into having too much time, so they join a cult, or they don't have enough positive things in their life, so they go out there and try to be a bastard to others. He's got a rich father. And that's the one thing, is we have not gone heavy on the backstory of Bray Wyatt at all. They've never really done that. He just sort of popped up. He had a family. He talked about Sister Abigail. He came up from Florida, and there you go. That's all he was. We know no backstory on him. What I know is his dad was IRS. There were investments that were made. There were properties that were bought. And obviously, last night in Missouri, that was one of them. And they also obviously have that bullet train that the family has created that got them from Missouri back to the arena in enough time.
All right, we're out of time from this fantasy booking.
Sure.
We'll have more fantasy booking tonight because Raw's on, so make sure you check that out. And we'll be back tomorrow to talk all about it. Plus, tonight with Dave Meltzer, Wrestling Observer Radio. We got a bunch of shows up yesterday, new observers. Check it out, WrestlingObserver.com. Thanks, Mike, as always. Callers and listeners, everybody at Sports Byline USA. We'll talk to you again next time. Wrestling Observer Live, Sports Byline USA, Radio Network.